Hello Artcadets, and welcome to the Magic Library illustration that I did inspired from our trip to the library. I thought it would be really nice to show you the process that I went through to get to the finished product of this drawing. And before I even started the painting that you can see here, I drew a little sketch in my sketchbook and came up with the idea that it would be really amazing if you could go to the library and open a book and everything that you saw in the book would come to life. So I enlarged that sketch onto a piece of tracing paper. So I just drew it out again on tracing paper and then transferred it onto a piece of watercolour paper. And I did that by flipping the tracing paper over and colouring the back of the drawing with my colour erase pencil, or you can use regular pencil, and then going again over the front of the picture to transfer it onto my watercolour paper. So I decided to do it in watercolour and add some other media as well. So to begin with, just doing a light wash of paint over the background, and what you can see here is me just going in with a very pale blue colour paint just to sort of highlight where the shadows are going to be, where the darker areas, just to remind me as I'm doing the painting so I don't lose what I've done underneath, if that makes sense. So I'm trying to do a nice sort of flat colour, both for the bookcases in the background and the wooden floor in the foreground. And then I'm going to add details in later to the books and the things on the floor. So I'm using a round, fairly fine paintbrush just to kind of fill in the first layer of colour. And I did think about the colours before I actually put them onto the paper. My idea was that the background things would all sort of not blend together, but I didn't want there to be too much bright colour behind the little girl reading the book, so that would make what I was doing coming out of the book look brighter. So that's why I did kind of a wash all over the bookcase at the background and did a bit more colour to the creatures coming out of the book. So going in and putting some colour in the background, I just did various shades of brown and picked out some of the books that I'd drawn, with the idea that I'd add in a bit more shading and detail later. I also thought it'd be quite fun in the background not just to do books, so if you can see, maybe not at this stage but certainly later, there are a few little animals and little details, because I like those pictures that you can sort of look at for ages, and the more you look at it the more you see. So things that you didn't first see before, suddenly you do see. So I wanted to sort of recreate something like that. And between layers, it's important, as I think I've said before, to make sure that the underneath layer is dry. Watercolours I'm using are transparent, so they can build up a really nice variety of colours, but you do need to make sure, if you don't want them to sort of blend into each other or bleed into each other, that you make sure the underneath layers are dry first. So once this initial layer was dry, I went in with a fine liner, black pen, and just to make it look more like an illustration, outlined various things to make them stand out a bit more. And I think, I'm not quite sure whether you can see actually, I think I did the books on the bookshelves with a sepia brown outliner, and then the characters in the foreground, so the little girl and all the animals coming out of the book, I outlined in black just to make them stand out a little bit more. So as well as the characters coming out of the book that she's holding, I thought it'd be really fun to do the books that are open in front of her with the pages or the items on the page standing up as well. And after I'd done the paint and the outlining, the next step was to go in with my colour pencils. So I wanted to add some shading and some details like the stripes on her top and a little bit of pink to her cheeks. I also decided to do the rabbits pink. Why not? So the actual drawing of this picture took me, or the painting of this picture took me about 3.5 hours, which is a pretty long time. So that's why I've sped it up, because I thought it would be too boring to sit there for 3.5 hours and watch it all. But I had a really good time painting it in and drawing it. I really enjoyed doing this picture. And there are things that I'd probably do differently next time or improve upon, but I'm quite happy with it as it is. And I think the more that you draw, the better you get, and if you can look at your work and be reasonably happy with it, then that's fine, because there's always something that you can improve upon and you can take that into your next drawing. So after I'd done the colour pencil, I then went in with a warm grey number 3 Copic marker, I think it was, and this just added a bit more shading and a bit more depth. And it was a bit scary at first because I didn't know whether I'd ruin it totally, but it gave it a bit more of a 3D effect. And lastly, I added some soft pastel, and I chose a colour that was sort of fairly warm to blend in with the books at on the bookshelf and the floor as well, and just rubbed it on with a cotton ball. And this was to try and get the focus into the centre of the picture, and I quite like the effect. I did try and add white because I was going to do almost a sort of pale glow coming out of the book, but it didn't really show up enough, so if you're wondering what I'm doing at this point, that's what it was. So to get the centre of the picture to stand out a bit more, I ended up adding a yellow glow instead, which I thought looked rather cute. And yeah, last of all then, I went in with my white gel pen, added a few little highlights, and that's about it. So I hope you enjoyed this picture. If you did, then don't forget to comment and subscribe, and I'll have another one next week.